Alrighty, hey, welcome football fans. I'm Charles E. Smith Jr. Welcome to this edition of NFL Football Talk. This is, of course, an Inside Sports production. Let's go ahead and get right into things here. 8 weeks of football in the books, so let's go ahead and break things down. As you know, I do not work alone here. I only work with the best, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring in the man who many of you already follow on Twitter at Chris L Sports, none other than Chris Lardieri. Chris, what's happening, man?
Charles, once again, thanks for the terrific intro. We are nearly halfway through the season, and I think we know as little as we did now as we did in Week 1, although the experts will have you believe otherwise. Russell Wilson apparently is not the second coming of Joe Montana, and reports of the Patriots' demise, particularly Tom Brady, were greatly exaggerated.
Yeah, that's true. And from what I understand about this Mr. Wilson, they are saying that Mr. Wilson is not black enough, is what I'm hearing. Now, he is that kind of, that non-offensive, that light caramel Obama kind of color that makes everybody feel good. But do you think he's, I'm not really qualified to say, but you, from your perspective, you being of the, a different persuasion than I, do you feel Russell Wilson is black enough?
Charles, if you're not qualified, I am nowhere near being qualified. I will not touch that with a 10-foot pole other than to say I don't see color. I see you as an expert football analyst, and this is the first I'm hearing of it. I've never spent time in an NFL locker room, nor do I think the last time I analyzed colors was with my 64 Crayola crayon box back in grade school. So I, quite frankly, have absolutely no clue what is going on there. If you ask me, I think it probably just comes down to good old-fashioned jealousy. If you look, Russell Wilson's become kind of a Madison Avenue darling. He's in a lot more commercials now, I've noticed. And, the Percy Harvins of the world, or Marshawn Lynch's, or whoever's disgruntled in that Seattle locker room aren't. So I think it's just that. I mean, look, the guy, he's a great story. No one thought he was going to make it. They thought he was too short. Wins a Super Bowl. I mean, it's not like he's lost it. He's still a good NFL quarterback.
Right.
Struggling this season. But I personally just think it's good old-fashioned jealousy. And it's not even a money thing because the guy hasn't gotten his big contract yet.
Yep, that's true. But, I love the way that Wilson plays ball, too. And, there's this comeback they had against Carolina in a good, hard-fought game. That things are not as easy as they were last year. But, like we talked about in the last show, who else ever started a season, won a Super Bowl, and then started a season without your top three receivers? Would you not expect the quarterback to struggle a little bit?
Absolutely. And then you add to that the fact that their star running back, who's already disgruntled to begin with, just is not running the ball like he was. I don't know if it's physically he's slowing down or he just realizes the end is near in Seattle and he's mailed it in. But, well, that's just kind of the icing on the proverbial cake right there.
Yep, and you know what? Let's go ahead and talk about a little bit about this weekend because we know Peyton Manning set the record with 509 career TD passes last weekend. But this week, four quarterbacks, for the first time ever, four quarterbacks threw for 400 yards or more. Big Ben against Andrew Luck. That was really kind of the marquee matchup as far as the aerial battle goes. Big Ben, 522 yards, 6 TDs, and 0 interceptions through the air to Andrew Luck. And here's the thing, if you look about today's NFL and we talk about you still need to be able to run the football. Four quarterbacks threw for 400 yards. Their records, 1-3. Big Ben was the only winner out of the bunch. So what does that tell everybody?
You need balance. You cannot just throw the ball. And I know Big Ben had a great game, and it was impressive. But let's face it, the 2014 Indianapolis Colts are not going to go down in the annals of history as being the 2000 Ravens on defense. So props to Big Ben. Looks like he's really come out of his doldrums. Maybe Todd Haley finally figured out the guy can throw the ball. He's pretty good at it. But, like I said, it's not like Dan Marino beating the 85 Bears on Monday night.
Yeah, and then what about, speaking of Monday night, hey, the real McCoy. The real McCoy on Monday night against the Dallas Cowboys. He goes into Big D, hangs a loss on the Cowboys. I believe the Cowboys had won 6 straight games, and they lose to the Redskins. So big props to Colt McCoy, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy was pretty much left on the scrap heap by the Cleveland Browns, and what's ironic is after Romo went out of that game, his former teammate Brandon Whedon battled former Browns quarterbacks there for a little while on Monday night. Made for some great football, huh? But no, it's a great story, and you figure Kirk Cousins was the second coming of RG3 in Washington, and that quickly went by the wayside. And you know what? McCoy did just enough to win the game. He didn't make the crucial errors. He made the throws when he had to, especially in overtime. Nice pass to Deshaun Jackson. So I think it's a great story, especially coming home down to Texas. He was a Texas Longhorn. And maybe you can help me answer this. What was the deal with that guy tugging on him after the game during the post-game interview? What was that all about?
Yeah, I know. I read something about that. Didn't get into the details, but apparently they wanted him for an interview. They said no, and the camera crew was insistent, and they finally just yanked him out, you know? So,
yeah, you would have thought he had a Ebola. I thought for a second he had Ebola, and they were going to sequester him in New Jersey. I don't know what was going on there.
Okay, you know, but thinking of the Redskins, now, of course, RG3 is kind of supposed to be back maybe next weekend. But, you know, I liken RG3 to a somewhat popular food product here. And that is, I liken him to the McRib sandwich. Now, RG3, he's not that great, and you don't really miss him when he's gone, but somehow everyone gets excited when they hear that RG3 is coming back, much like the McRib sandwich. So, could you compare him to the McRib?
That's a great analogy, especially when you consider that, much like RG3, the McRib is marketed very shrewdly and endlessly. For some reason, I don't know why, my subconscious thinks of a Subway $5 footlong. Do you have any idea why I would think of that when you say RG3? I'm not quite sure.
I don't know, but I think we may all get in trouble for this one. Okay, so, you know, getting back to the serious side here, though, we talked about the QB performances. How about Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski getting back in the saddle and really basically crushing the Chicago Bears? Brady goes for 5 TD passes. The Bears, I think they're done. I think the implosion is upon us now. Lamar Houston, he sacks the backup quarterback Garoppolo while his team is down by, I think, 20 points or so. Tries to do a little sack celebration, his own little version of the discount double check, and what does he do? Much like Stephen Tulloch did in, I think it was week 2, torn ACL, done for the year.
Yes, bonehead play of the week, and then after the game he made some comments to the effect of, oh well, it happens, as if, you know, he was trying to make a tackle and his knee gave. I mean, really? And, you know, it's funny, a few weeks ago, this is the same guy who was ripping people criticizing the Bears play because dropping the, oh, you never played the game card. Well, apparently you haven't played it very well and you're not very bright. So, yeah, that's going to go down as clearly one of the frankly dumbest things I've seen this year, especially given that, like you said, we already saw one knee blowout on an equally stupid celebration. But yeah, really send your team a good message when you're out there in a 25-point blowout and
right,
dancing around like that. And I think that's just kind of a microcosm of a bigger thing, or the Bears done. We talked about this earlier in the pre-show meeting. You know, you can pin all you want on Jay Cutler, but that Bears defense is atrocious. And I know the secondary's been decimated by injuries, but that's going to end up being their downfall this year. You can blame Cutler all you want, but that's where I'd point the finger.
Yeah, so I think, and it's going to be interesting. You know, Brandon Marshall actually goes on this NFL, Inside the NFL, the show on, what's it on, Showtime now? It used to be HBO, I think
Yes.
It's Showtime, but he's on there every week now. And it'll be interesting to see if he kind of fades into the mist or if he can actually stay on that show being held accountable while this team implodes like that. If it does, Brandon Marshall has a lot of character, a lot more character than I thought. But it would be really tough for him to stay on there for this whole season.
Yeah, absolutely. It will make for some good reality television, though. You're right.
Yep, that's for sure. And, you know, just one more thing about this whole, the Cowboys loss to the Redskins. What I couldn't figure out was Romo goes down with the back injury. And then, but DeMarco Murray had been a beast really all night there. But when Romo comes back in, I believe the count was they ran 9 plays and only ran Murray once. So here you've got your running back who is just ripping through the heart of the Washington defense, and then your injured quarterback comes back in and you call nothing but pass plays. I don't get that. We're in overtime. What?
I have an explanation for you. Don't know if you heard, but Jerry Jones is on the sideline and let Jason Garrett know that Tony Romo was willing to come back into the game. He was healthy again. So maybe Jerry's calling plays, too. What do you think, Charles? I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. Could be this era's version of Al Davis. But, yeah, I didn't get it, especially when you consider their first possession of overtime. The Redskins just kicked the field goal thanks to the new overtime rule, which I like, by the way. They get the ball. Murray rips off an 8-yard run. You figure, wow, all they got to do is run the ball 2 more times, and they get a first down, no-brainer, and they go to the pass. I don't get it.
Right.
And you know what? Even if Romo's healthy, I don't like that call. Nothing against Romo, and you and I have been critical of him for years, but this guy is your bread and butter. You've won 6 in a row. Are you saving him for later in the year? I don't get it. I mean, you're trying to win football games. It's an NFC East division matchup. Who knows if tiebreakers come into play at the end of December? Run the ball. Run it down their throat. It was working all game. Just do it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I know. That was really strange. And, as we noted with the QBs getting the big yardage through the air but losing the games, you got to have that ground game. And that's what the Cowboys have done all year, though. They've ridden Murray. And then all of a sudden, I think they were about 60-40 pass plays to run plays in this game against Washington. So we'll see going forward because Dallas does have a big test against Arizona this weekend. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Dallas already at 6 wins here. It might be... Could the end be coming for the Cowboys? We'll have to all stay tuned on this one.
Yeah, and I did notice the calendar will be changing over to November this weekend. That's never a good sign in Dallas.
That's right, and remember to turn your clock back.
Right, spring ahead, fall behind, people.
Yep, there you go. Okay, and then also, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers got a little bit banged up there. It looked like he did a hammy or something, but the New Orleans Saints, who we both picked, one of ours who might make it to the Super Bowl, one of our 4 teams we picked. But the New Orleans Saints, 3-4 on the season now, but 3 wins at home, 4 losses on the road. So even if they win all their home games, that only puts them at 8-8, which may actually give them that division title, looking at the way the NFC South is. But they're not going to get enough home playoff games based on that to make it through. So at some point, the Saints got to start winning on the road, and hopefully, for them, it starts on this Thursday against Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it will be an uphill battle, but at the very least, Tampa Bay we know is done. Looks like Atlanta's going to fall by the wayside, and a victory over Carolina could put one nail in their playoff coffin. So, surprisingly, another team that people had written off for dead might actually be in decent shape if they can win a couple road games.
Yep, and then you got these... in the NFC North, Detroit Lions, a big comeback. And I think when you look at implosions, you look at certain things that just end a team's season. The Lions' victory over Atlanta, coming back from 21 down. Matt Ryan with one of the worst interceptions you'll ever see anywhere. And they lose that game in 22-21. What did you think about that last second when they missed the field goal? But they had run out of time, so they got to kick the field goal again, but from 5 yards back, and then they made it that second time.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were critical of that, saying it was a ticky-tack call. Did the clock really run out? I mean, it looked like it hit 0 to me. It's a rough call. It's a judgment call. But what's 2 things that stuck out to me? One, how did Matt Prater go from one of the best kickers in the NFL to being so shaky? I didn't realize sobriety would affect his kicking that much. And 2, I've been saying for a while I thought Mike Smith was overrated. He's made some questionable game management calls, not only when the Falcons were a playoff team, but some of the past few seasons and earlier this year against the Giants. And I really think that he's moved to probably seat 1A on the coaching hot seat right now behind Rex Ryan. I think his days are numbered in Atlanta. And Matt Ryan is apparently morphed into the old Tony Romo. I'm really not quite sure why he'd even throw that ball. I know he said he didn't see the defender, but throw across your body, across the field like that in a game where you're trying to run out the clock makes 0 sense.
Right. Well, the one thing is he didn't see the defender, but I looked over there. there weren't any red shirts over there either. Was he trying to throw the ball away? Because I think he was still in the pocket, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, but throw it to your side of the field. Don't throw it across. That's always a disaster waiting to happen. So, yeah, Arthur Blank's going to be pacing the sidelines for the next few weeks. That's for sure.
Yep, exactly. And then what about those? You mentioned Rex Ryan. What about those New York Jets? We finally found out the threshold for Geno Smith getting pulled, and that is 3 interceptions in 1 quarter will get him pulled from a game. So now it's Michael Vick. They had their GM on today, just kind of giving a State of the Nation address, and it just looks like a mess there in New York.
Yeah, it really is, and I listened to that press conference, and, John Idzik seems like a nice enough guy, but even coming in, the criticism of him was he's not a football guy, he's more a business guy, so be it, whatever, maybe he's a cap guy, I don't know, Mike Tannenbaum was before him, but he was equally unimpressive as a general manager, so I'm not sure what Woody Johnson's doing there, but you can blame Rex all you want, but I really don't see light at the end of that tunnel with the leadership of John. Everything is okay. We've got great players and coaches here. Really, I think he probably shouldn't even have had a press conference. I heard one commentator say if the Giants were in this situation, they would never have a press conference.
Right.
And it's true. You move along and you don't bait the sharks that are the New York media, because now they're just going to be in feeding frenzy mode.
Yeah, I think that's funny the way the New York media is, though, because it just goes to show what cultures. Because that kind of culture has been that way always with the New York media. But I think about it, media out here, if anyone went in and was as brutal as the media is out there, they would actually get banned from the events here. But New York, it's just open season. They just let them just attack.
Yeah, it's really ingrained in their culture at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it's a function of the fact that you still have 2 relatively thriving tabloids that are still competing for business, whereas most cities have maybe 1 newspaper with a dwindling sports section. So that feeds into it as well. New York was the first market to have a all sports talk radio station, WFAN. That definitely helps.
Mm-hmm.
But even listening to the vitriol of the Jets callers this week, it's alive and well there. So yeah, it's a different beast, having lived there for big portion of my youth and young adulthood. There's nothing quite like it. I mean, you can't get away with anything there, and quite frankly, neither of the football teams are good, so there's not going to be anything good to report on there.
Yep, that's true. And before we get into our pick segment, I want you to go ahead and give some props here to the team that I think we've all been a little skeptical about, but they just keep on passing every single hurdle that you throw in front of them. They jump it every single test. They pass it with flying colors. And this weekend was no different. Arizona Cardinals take down the Philadelphia Eagles, and with some gutsy play calling, gutsy throwing, Carson Palmer with a late 75-yard touchdown pass to a rookie wide receiver there. But, how about those Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, watch out for John Brown from Pittsburgh, and that's in Kansas State. I'm really impressed. I picked him this week. I think Bruce Arians is a terrific story. I read a little bit about him over the weekend. This is a guy who, kind of like Steve Spurrier, doesn't think you need to work your life away. Assistants should go home and spend time with their family. Unlike Steve Spurrier, he actually coaches instead of going home and working on his golf game. Carson Palmer, everyone mocked the trade at the time. I think they gave the Raiders a 6th-rounder. Well, go figure. The Raiders apparently made a bad trade, because Carson Palmer looks like he's found the fountain of youth there in the desert. And, that defense is really underrated. They're starting to get some injured players back, like Calais Campbell. I know Honey Badger's due back soon, and they could really make a nice run here. I know there's some tough matchups still, again, at San Francisco, and they get the Seahawks. But really, this is a great story. I think it's easily one of the best of this season. They've kind of been flying under the radar, but they go into Dallas this week, and if they win that game, watch out. This team's really going to catch momentum, and I think the rest of the country will jump on board.
Exactly. And where's the Super Bowl going to be held this season?
Glendale, Arizona, which means the Cardinals will not be representing the NFC for the 49th year. That jinx will hold true.
I think so. All right. So you know what? Before we get into the picks of the week, any further little nuggets you'd like to share with us about the NFL, there, Mr. Lardieri?
Yeah, I am, like I said earlier, kind of hitting on the theme of the Patriots, and everyone had written them off at the beginning of October. Russell Wilson, everyone thought he was the greatest. We're halfway through the season. We know some things, but really, I think we're heading into the stretch now, November, December, where teams are going to make moves. We see who will get healthy again, who's going to start jockeying for position in home field and the bye, etc. I'm going to stick with it. I was with them in August, and I'm going to continue to beat that drum. The 49ers are going to get some players back, like Aldon Smith. They're going to get the Seahawks at home on Thanksgiving night. I think that's a big matchup. I think that's a game they could easily win, and I think they make their move here. But what'll be interesting is they're going to be duking it out, I think, with Arizona. But at the very least, I see the 49ers as continuing to be a playoff team, barring any injuries, as long as Colin Kaepernick keeps his head screwed on straight and doesn't try to throw the ball at Richard Sherman. But that's one team I've got my eye on, and the AFC still kind of wide open. But you know what? Have no fear. We've got the Manning-Brady Bowl version 18, I think it is. So always make for some good football, and wouldn't be surprised to see those two facing off again in January. So we've got some good matchups coming up, starting with this week.
Yep, absolutely. And as we were speaking about before we went on the air here, I listened to the commentators after the Monday Night Football game, and I think what Steve Young was saying, it's just the way that the NFL is now. When you look at players changing teams and injuries and all those types of things, you really can't even say until late November or December. But the traditional thing is to make your pick at the beginning of the season, just to see how well you know the game. But you can't say, give me 12 weeks of football and then I'll pick a team. So, hey, that's the way it is.
Yep. And one more team I'd like you to keep your eye on, the Bengals. Another one everyone thought was the greatest, had written off. They won a key game coming back against the Ravens in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Steve Smith Sr., a little push-off, could have made it a miraculous comeback for the Ravens late in the game, but they got him on the OPI. But, with A.J. Green hopefully coming back healthy, that's Dalton's favorite weapon. That's another team. They could easily win that division. The Ravens and Steelers face off again this week. They might start knocking each other off some more. So they got a winning record. They got that tie against Carolina, but don't be surprised if they're still hanging around come December. Moral of the story is do not throw dirt on a team unless they reside in Oakland or Jacksonville or one half of the Meadowlands.
All righty, so let's go ahead and get right into it. First of all, how we do last week. Yours truly went 4-2. Chris, you went 5-1. Big Ben broke your heart there with his 522-yard, 6 TD performance. But for the season, we're both a respectable 25-23, picking the 6 most intriguing games of the season. Let's go ahead and break into this here. So first, we talked about the Saints. New Orleans Saints at 3-4, coming off the win over Green Bay. At Carolina. Carolina at 3-4-1. Which gives them a percentage points lead in their division. But big matchup here. The Saints have not yet won a game away from home, and this is one where they can really kind of start to take control of the NFC South. I'll tell you what, based on the just the experience of the teams and looking at what they've done in big games, I'm going with the Saints to go on the road and win their first road game here against Carolina on Thursday Night Football. What do you think?
I'm going to have to agree with you. And normally I would pick the Panthers. Over the years, they've really played the Saints either tough or flat out beaten them in their house. But their offense is just really not in good shape, and it's not Cam Newton's fault. Like we said, they let too many receivers get away. They probably got up to now 4 running backs injured.
Well, I think D'Angelo Williams is supposed to be back this week. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and even still, you didn't see. Eddie Lacy he kind of woke up this week, but not enough to run all over the Saints. And I don't see D'Angelo Williams doing that. Could end up being a little bit too close for comfort, but I still see Breeze and the Saints winning. They've got some momentum here. They know they'll have the 10 days off. I'll pick New Orleans.
All right, and then you can go ahead and break down the next matchup for us. That is those Cardinals in Big D to face off against the boys. What do you think?
Yeah, Red October, the Arizona Cardinals, a team matchup leading the NFC West against the NFC East leading Dallas Cowboys, who are licking their wounds after that tough Monday night loss. Is Romo healthy? They say he is. It was just some sort of contusion unrelated to his back surgery. Regardless, like I said, I like the way the Arizona defense is playing. This is one of those games where they could really, really cement a name for themselves. I think that you look at the way the Shady McCoys of the world, even when they played Denver, they hung in there against that offense. The difference I like here is the Arizona defense. The Dallas defense had another injury this past week, and when Colt McCoy is leading drives to beat you, I'm not that impressed. I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I think they continue what could potentially be a Dallas downturn. That remains to be seen, but I just like their way they're playing on all sides of the ball. Very underrated secondary, too, that I think will give Romo fits.
Yep, I got to go with you here. Like we said, they've passed every single test, and now when we look at John Brown with his breakout, they've got Fitzgerald, too, to give that secondary of Dallas fits. So I like the way they're playing, and the Cardinals are on a roll. I don't see it stopping this week, so 6-2 Dallas would be 6-3 Dallas after this weekend.
Knock on wood.
Okay, and then the San Diego Chargers in Miami to play against the Dolphins. Chargers have been playing good ball. Dolphins have now strung together 4 good performances this week. They could have been a little stronger against Jacksonville, but a W is a W. But in Miami, I like the way that the Dolphins are coming along. They're gaining confidence. Defensive end Deion Jordan's going to be back. He should be back in the lineup this week. I think they're on a pretty good roll. Chargers are playing good ball, but I'm going to go with the Dolphins at home. And in this game, they kind of establish themselves and get themselves to that next level. Tough game, but I'm going to go with the Dolphins at home.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely like all your points. On top of that, San Diego traveling east, their struggles are well documented, and quite frankly, I just like the way the Miami defense is playing. They had 2 pick sixes off of Bortles last week, which isn't saying much, but this is a team where you're not going to be able to make mistakes on them. I think while Brandon Oliver's been doing a nice job as a running back for San Diego, I think they'll ultimately dare Rivers to beat him, much like the way the Broncos defended him last Thursday night, and the Dolphins pull out. I think will be a hard-fought and close game.
Yep, and then you can go ahead and break down one of the marquee matchups here for us this week. The Denver Broncos at 6-1 in New England to take on the Patriots. This is the 15th meeting between Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Brady holds the edge 10-5 lifetime. Talk to me.
Yeah, it seems like they play every year, regardless of where Peyton ends up, Denver, Indianapolis, whatever team. And this is the one game NBC wishes they could flex, but they can't. CBS is the lucky recipient. Last year it was a great Sunday night game, hard-fought battle, back and forth. Ultimately, it got a little windy up there in Foxborough. A fumble punt turned the game around. I think we could see another game like that. I don't know why I'm going off gut while everyone thinks the Denver offensive machine is unstoppable, and I'm definitely impressed by them. I just, for some reason, I never want to count against Brady, especially in a head-to-head matchup with Peyton. I like the way Gronk's playing. I like the way Brandon LaFell's emerged as a target. Gray as a running back, and I will take Bill Belichick scheming against Peyton Manning any day of the week. I'm maybe going to the well one too many times, but I'll pick the Patriots at home.
Yeah, and actually I'm going to agree with you here, and I think that one thing that may be the Broncos' downfall is the running game, which I still don't think is that strong. So I think that could be the difference here. Looks for it to be kind of an ugly game, maybe, but I think in the end I'm going with New England. I love the Dolphins, so I wouldn't mind seeing New England lose, but I can't pick from my heart. I got to pick from my head. I like New England in the game too.
Only the best from you. True, objective, journalistic integrity.
Okay, and then, hey, the big Sunday night game, the Baltimore Ravens at 5-3 in Pittsburgh to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers at 5-3. And by the way, they're going to retire the jersey of one Charles Edward Green. Now, do you know who that is?
Yes, that guy from the Coke commercial, a.k.a. Mean Joe Green.
Yep, exactly. So a ceremony beforehand, then the game. So the Ravens in town to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think with the way the Steelers have been playing and going with the hype that's going to be from Joe Green being in the building, retiring the jersey, they can't let all those fans down. They're going to be energized. The Pittsburgh Steelers take down the Baltimore Ravens in prime time on Sunday night.
You know, the only thing I find more appalling than your pick is the fact that Mean Joe Green's number only got retired in 2014. That's upsetting to me, but I digress. Normally I'd pick with you, but after that big win last week, and given the fact that the Steelers seem to be one of those roller coaster teams in the NFL, and the way Baltimore played a tough game, and really on paper it's like you should go into Pittsburgh and walk into a buzzsaw. I don't know why. It's going to be my intuition pick of the week. I like the way Flacco always plays against the Steelers. I think they win. Like, it's a typical NFL version of the backyard brawl for you college fans. And the Ravens go in there, and I could easily see Justin Tucker kicking a late field goal. Another one of these 13-10, 16-13 type games, slugfest, chippy, old school AFC North football. I'm going to pick the Ravens.
Well, we'll see. I'm sure it's going to be close. I think they looked at. There's only been, I think, out of the last maybe 12 or 16 times they've played each other, they've only had. It's been decided by 3 points. Like every time, but maybe twice. So it's going to be a close game. But like I said, I like Pittsburgh, and Joe Green is going to be happy. Number 75.
You're going to have a Coke and a smile.
Okay, and then the last game, the Colts with the big aerial show last week, playing your New York Giants. Colts at 5-3, the Giants at 3-4. Giants need this game. They did just recently lose linebacker John Beeson to a toe surgery. He's going to be out the rest of the year. Not that the Giants need any more handicaps there, but anyways. What do you have to see this one?
That segues well into my pick. Indy, after being lit up in the Steel City, they've got a cure for their woes. They're going to play the New York Giants. I don't care that that'll end. The Giants' defense, everyone loves to point the finger at Eli, much like Jay Cutler gets blamed in Chicago, but this Giants defense is fairly atrocious, and losing Beeson doesn't help. No pass rush whatsoever, and with the way Andrew Luck's been playing and beating some impressive defenses this year, I think he just lights up the Giants secondary. I know the Giants need this game. I know they typically play well at home in primetime spots like this, but I think the little X factor to watch is Ahmad Bradshaw, who's got 8 touchdowns already this year going against his former team, along with Hakeem Nicks. Wouldn't be surprised if both of those guys come up big on Monday night. I'd pick the Colts.
Yep, and I'm not sure if Rashad Jennings will be back in the lineup for the Giants or not. But in any case, I think the Colts have too many weapons. They may have some holes there on their defense, but I don't think that the Giants have the offensive weapons to really exploit that. So, all roads lead to the Colts winning this game as far as the way that I see it. It'd be nice to see the Giants win and maybe keep themselves in the playoff hunt a little bit there in the NFC, because you never know what might happen down the stretch. But, I think this is the Colts weekend there.
Agreed.
Okay, so that's it for the picks this week. Picked all of our 6 games there. Any words before we sign off here, Mr. Lardieri?
I was watching the Monday night game and listening to John Gruden objectively talk about his brother, and I just can't get over the fact that someone would float a rumor out there that John Gruden would come back to football if it was the Raiders' job was available, and that amused me. I don't know if that was leaked deliberately or not, but I've been having a hard time getting my hands around this. I don't know if you also found it as amusing as I did, but just listening to him in the booth, John, listen, I implore you, nothing against the Raiders. I know you've got some love for them and history there. Stay in the booth. It's a much better job.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. You can get those kind of little nuggets of wisdom and more anecdotes from Mr. Lardieri. Follow him on Twitter, especially on game days, at Chris L Sports. You can follow yours truly on Twitter at The Inside Sports. I don't know what I was thinking of here. Maybe it was. Never mind. I won't even say. So, everybody,
Freudian
thanks
slip.
for joining us. Remember, every single week, right here, it's NFL Football Talking Inside Sports Production, and we'll see everybody next week.